Welcome to Brook Hill Spotlight. We are here today to hear a story of someone that we want to spotlight. Hear their story, listen for God in their story, and maybe even listen to God as God speaks to us today. So today I am blessed to have as our guest Dave Adams. So welcome, Dave, for being here today.
Thank you.
Our Spotlight show. And so how we always begin on our interview is just to talk about how did you end up at Brook Hill and what brought you here? Like, how long have you been here?
Ellen and I at our last church became dissatisfied from what we were hearing from the pulpit. So we started looking around and we came to Brook Hill and said, we like this. We liked what we were hearing, and so here we are.
Well, I'm glad to have you here, and Ellen too. So tell me a little bit about your family.
I was born in Maine.
Okay.
That's always important to me. I got to spell that out. I was born in Maine, but my mother and father kidnapped me and moved me to Maryland.
Okay.
When I was 2. The rest of my 3 sisters and 1 brother were born in Maryland. Okay. So they're from away. That's Maine talk,
Okay.
to describe somebody that's not from Maine. But we grew up in Riverdale, East Pines, Cheverly, that area, until I was 16, and then we moved to West Virginia for 2 years.
Okay.
And we moved twice in West Virginia. I went to 4 different high schools.
Oh my.
My father was in construction, so
you kind of followed him with his work.
yeah. And we moved around quite a bit, and I guess from the time, East Pines is what I consider my real home here, because I was in East Pines from the time I was 6 till I was 16. So those were probably my formative years.
And did you have any brothers or sisters, or? Yeah.
I had 3 sisters, 1 brother.
Okay. Well, tell me a little bit, where did you go to school?
Well, elementary, I went to Waldecroft Elementary. Then I went to Glenridge Junior High School. And then I went to Duval, Magnolia, Morgantown, and Northwestern High Schools.
Oh my, that's a lot of changes for those years.
It was a tremendous amount of changes. But, I never was at one school long enough to really develop friendships. All my friendships were back here.
Yeah, that's difficult. My husband his father was in the military. He had the same experience. He would change schools often. He said it was really hard because you didn't have enough time to develop those relationships.
Right.
So he said either you ended up being very shy or very outgoing, like he did, trying to make friends fast. It's hard. So Dave, tell me, what did you do after high school?
Well, after high school, I joined the Navy.
Okay. And
my first duty station was the USS Ponchatoula, AO 148. It was an oiler. We were home ported in Hawaii, but I knew where we were going. The guy, my leader in boot camp said, yeah, you're not going to be there long. So we ended up, about a month after I got on the ship, we took off for Vietnam.
Wow.
And we would run refueling missions off the coast of Vietnam from Subic Bay, Philippines. We would run what they called Yankee Station, where we'd be far enough off the coast that we couldn't see land. And then we'd run market time, where we could actually see the silt being chewed up by our screws as we came in that close to drop supplies to the river forces. The 2 big events for me, or the two things that occurred to the ship while I was on it, was we saved a Marine that was left for dead.
Wow.
We, of course, I was in the electrical division, and they never tell you anything. They treat you like mushrooms. They just don't keep you in the dark and don't tell you anything. So we pulled in fairly close to shore one day, and our gunner's mates all of a sudden we're getting into a lifeboat, and they were armed to the teeth. Dropped the lifeboat, they went ashore and disappeared into the jungle, and we're sitting there wondering what the heck is going on. And it was probably a half an hour or so, they come out and they're helping this guy walk. And as they got him to the ship and up on the deck, we could see he'd been shot several times. Nothing serious, all, just enough to make him bloody. And that's what saved his life. He was in a machine gun crew that had got overrun. And I guess after he felt he was safe enough, he called out an SOS, and we were the closest one, so we went and got him.
Wow.
And that was neat. The second thing that happened, we had come back from Vietnam, and we were in Pearl, and we were asked to go out and refuel, this is in 1970, to refuel a ship coming from Vietnam heading to California. So we went out there, and I was actually topside and walking to my duty station when I heard a snap behind me, and I looked and I saw the cable connecting the other ship in the rear snap, and it swung around like that and T-boned us.
Oh, wow.
Didn't lose steering. It lost steering, but didn't lose power. And both ships were in pretty bad shape. But each ship had approximately 300 men. And in the Navy, if you're on a ship, you're well trained. And everybody did their job. No heroics, just they went about doing their job. And we were able to save both ships.
Wow. Thank you so much for your service.
Oh, you're welcome.
I love to hear the stories, and that's not easy, especially being in that time when there was a lot of danger. So thank you so much and for sharing that.
Yep. You're welcome.
Well, tell me, so where did you go to college? Where did you go?
I did not graduate from college.
Okay.
I have probably close to 2 years worth of credits.
Okay.
I went to Prince George's Community College. I've been to Frederick Community College. I think those are the two. And I basically took classes on things I was interested in,
yes.
things I wanted. I've been a realtor since the early 90s, so I took some accounting classes and I took some law classes.
Okay. So talk to me about being a realtor, because that's one area you've worked in.
That was my second career. I've always considered myself a people person. I try to put people first. And being a realtor, I think that's important because, I don't want to come off as somebody trying to push them to buy a house. I want to find out what their needs are and what they want, and then try to find a match for what they want.
I know you've helped Brook Hill because you've shared at different times with helping us to know who the new people are in our neighborhoods. And that's been very helpful as we're trying to make those connections. So your knowledge as a realtor has been helpful in that.
Well, good, I'm glad.
Yeah, thank you. Well, tell me, you said that's just one part of your career. What other areas have you done?
My real career was as an estimator.
Okay.
For construction. We specialized, the companies I work for specialized in excavation, clearing, grubbing, and site demolition.
Okay.
And I'm really proud of that career because that career spanned from about 72 to 92.
Okay.
And I did when you're doing an estimate, you're competing. So I had that, I loved that competing. And you had to develop good practices. So one of the projects that I was successful at was the French Embassy.
Okay.
Another was the Russian Embassy. The Air Rights Building in Arlington, Virginia, that you see when you go across the bridge there, and many office buildings.
I think this is interesting to me because my husband has a family business in construction with fences, and he has done many fences down in the different embassies. So along the way, you might have actually passed each other and didn't know it.
Very possible,
He was doing estimates down there, but mainly for fences. Well, that's interesting. Well, tell me a little bit about how did you meet your wife, Ellen?
That's actually a funny story. I was still working as an estimator, and a friend of mine, Bob Rack, who worked with me, after my first wife left in 1985, and I was on my own until I met Ellen. And he kept saying, I got somebody I want you to meet. I kept saying, I'm not ready yet. I don't want to meet somebody, you know. And so finally I figured, well, I'll just have to go along with them and shut them up. So I took my 3 kids. I figured if that doesn't scare them off, you know, who knows. So I met Ellen. And I knew right away this was trouble, you know, because this was going to change my world a little bit. So I actually didn't call her for a month and a half. And then I called her, and we went out on a date and had a good time, and I'm thinking, yep, this is, and I didn't call her for a month and a half again. And then when I did call her that time, from that time on, it was pretty much on.
Oh, that's great. I love hearing those stories.
It wasn't that I didn't call her because I had any concerns about her. I had concerns about me and what I had just been through.
Right.
And luckily she understood that, and luckily nobody else came along and snatched her up.
Oh, well, that's wonderful. So tell me a little bit about you told me how you met Ellen. How did you meet Jesus?
That goes back to when I was between 10 and 11 years of age.
Okay.
I was invited to, about the time I was 10, I was invited to a vacation Bible school by a neighbor.
Yes.
First Baptist Church in New Carrollton.
Okay.
First Baptist Church of Riverdale. And that was when they were in a really small old building on Riverdale Road. And I attended there, and I really liked it. And I guess this one gentleman really spoke to me. And then my mother became pregnant with my sister Terry. And she was in the hospital, and they said she was going to die.
Oh my goodness.
That was a tough time. So I prayed. And prayed and prayed. If you can imagine the trauma of being 10 years old and the most important person in your life going to be taken away from you. And a doctor from NIH performed some kind of new procedure that saved her life.
Oh wow, that's a wonderful story.
Yeah. And from then on, you know, life has got ups and downs. And one of the things that I think my belief in Jesus has taught me in the Bible is, you know, perseverance. This too shall pass. Yeah. And that's how I got through life. I just, you know, you hear people talking about discrimination. Well, there's something called discrimination of education. I didn't have a degree. The people under me did. And it was only because I outworked them. Mm-hmm. In fact, one time when I was on vacation, my immediate boss wanted to replace me because I didn't have a degree. So he got the company owner to come in, and they were preparing a bid. Well, they fumbled all over themselves and couldn't get it together. And the owner of the company just looked at him and said, well, Dave would have done it, and walked out, and that ended that. But those are some of the things that you have to put up with.
Well, I believe God gives us opportunities for education that, while I've taken advantage of formal education, I also know there's a lot of life experience education.
And on-the-job training.
On-the-job training. And you'll have to have some conversations sometime with my husband, Randy, because he learned a lot what he learned on the family business, so he could relate to that.
Yep.
So those are all kinds of ways that God teaches us, you know.
Yeah.
Well, tell me about your faith journey along the way. You shared a little bit how you first encountered Jesus, and I love that story. Is there other ways that God has either spoken to you or used you in ministry?
I was trying, my first marriage was not a great marriage, but we had 3 wonderful boys. And I was trying to think of some way to salvage that relationship. So we started attending First Baptist Church of New Carrollton. And Associate Pastor Jeffrey Watson, great guy, and we connected. And he says, I want you to lead a new program that we're trying to start. And it's called Awanas.
Awanas, I've heard of that.
Yes. So I guess we had about 35, 36 kids in the church that first year. And these were all children of members of the church. And the first year was successful and we had a great time. And then I brought up, that we're surrounded by apartments with tons of latchkey kids. Mm-hmm. Let's go out to them. Well, that created some conflict, but Pastor Watson stood up for me and said, I think that's a great idea. So we did, and we picked up about 100 to 120 more kids. Wow. And these were not kids that looked anything like the kids that we had been. Most of these were minority kids. They came in, and it was a huge success.
Sounds like a wonderful opportunity.
We took them on, besides the regular Awana program, we took them on a camping trip to Jamestown.
Okay.
They loved it. We took them on a camping trip up to Gettysburg. They loved that. So we had a good time. But, I believe God does speak to us.
I do too, all the time.
And it was, that church failed. It just disintegrated. There's a whole lot of reason behind that. I could explain it, but not here. So anyways, about 6 years later, I'm standing in line in the Safeway store. And this young man walked up to me. He's a minority. He says, are you Mr. Adams? Did you go to that church? Did you lead the Awana program? And I said, well, I was one of the leaders, yes. And he said, I want to thank you. You don't know what that meant to a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And I think that was God's way of saying, you did good.
Yes. Yes, and the seeds we plant, we don't always get that wonderful opportunity to see where they have started growing. But when we do, it's very powerful.
Yeah. Through my life, I've always tried to treat people honestly. If I make a mistake, I tell them, hey, that's on me, something like that. So I think I've developed a decent reputation in that way. But I'm always aware that Jesus is watching.
Yes.
And I don't want to disappoint him.
Yes. I agree. Well, I know that you've also been involved with Water Boys. Mm-hmm. And that's another way that you can help teach and mentor people and disciple. Can you share a little bit about that?
Well, most waterboard tables, they aim at 10. And when I joined at this particular table, we had about 7. Well, then we had some people move away. We had 3 or 4 or 5 people move away. And we were down to, I think at one time there was 3 of us. Then there was 4 of us. Now there's 5 of us. Okay. So it's building. And it's not overnight, but again, you persevere, keep doing the same things over and over, keep doing the right things. And
now, when do you meet?
We meet Tuesday mornings, 9 o'clock, right across the hall. Right
here in the church.
Yes.
And so are you open to new people if they're interested?
Constantly.
Okay, just notice that if you're watching today, If there's an opportunity for you to want to be a part of that, we just need to let Dave know or let us know, and we'll let you know. That would be great.
Yeah.
That's great. I want to back up just a little bit. You also have another job that you do that is kind of like a ministry, you tell me, is that working at the Days Inn.
Yeah. I've been working at the front desk of the Days Inn for about 11 years. And I've probably trained just about everybody there. I don't want to be a manager or anything like that. That's not the role I want. I want to work the front desk. And I've had, it's, to me, in some ways, it's disappointing to see some of our guests coming in. I often tell people, I think some of these people, look like they, or act like they were raised by wolves. They're feral. They don't have the proper IDs or the payments or anything like that. But the real reason that I think of it as a ministry is I try to help people, and especially my coworkers. Before COVID, we used to have 2 on a shift. Now we got 1, so that I'm cut back quite a bit. I mean, I actually am full-time. I still work the same hours, but I'm usually by myself. But I had a nice compliment the other day, and it kind of tells me that I'm working in the right direction. And that is one of our old-time customers is a truck driver. And he's been coming there longer than I've been there. He's been coming there for almost 30 years. And he says, I don't know if you know this or not, but every time I talk to the ladies here, they rave about you. So, I mean, of course, I trained them, and that makes me feel good that at least I'm a positive influence on them.
Oh, I think that's wonderful. And again, you often encounter people that are struggling in different ways.
Very much.
So you can at least bear the witness of Christ's kindness and love to people.
Yep.
That's really great. Well, tell me a little bit, what do you do for fun? What are your hobbies or interests you have?
Well, I like reading about history. And I like to golf when I'm able, but I've hurt my shoulder, so I'm taking it easy right now. But I like playing golf. I'm not good at it, but I enjoy it. I enjoy whacking the ball all over the field.
We've got to we have several people in our congregation that love to play golf, and we just need to get you all together at some point. We could definitely have a golf ministry.
That's possible, yeah.
Yeah, I'm often hearing that. Well, tell me at Brook Hill, what do you do at Brook Hill?
Well, at Brook Hill, I'm an usher.
Okay, and that's important.
I go to Sunday school with the Seekers.
Okay.
I have the Water Boys ministry. And I attend church.
I think that's wonderful. You talked about being an usher, and I always say that some people think, well, that's just passing paper bulletins out, but you're like the face of Christ, the people that are there. You're meeting people, making them feel welcome. And so I appreciate that, and I know you're helping me at 11 o'clock to kind of have a team of people that can do this in a way of ministering. If somebody feels called to help, should they contact you?
Absolutely.
Okay. You have to come a little bit early, but it's not that hard. And again, someone who can smile and make people feel welcome, it's important.
Well, they could come to the Seekers class from 9:30 to 10:30, and then they can be at the front at 10:40 when we usually meet, the ushers and the greeters and everything, and we disperse to our assignments.
I think that'd be great. So if you would be interested or just want to talk more about it and learn what it's about, you could talk to Dave. That'd be great. Well, what do you think, anything you want to say to the congregation, anything you want to say is like what is important to you, or what do you feel like God's calling you to do?
What's important to me is for the church to stay on church business, to preach the Word of God.
Yes.
There's a lot of political squabbling going on in this country right now. I mean, the country is practically split. We need to keep that outside the church. We need to concentrate on the job of the church.
I agree.
And if we do that, I think it'll help the other.
I agree. I think that's where we start. I always say I'm about Jesus, but I don't mean that lightly. I really mean that, what you just said, that we're refocusing on what is our mission.
Yep.
And I think that's really important. So thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you for joining us today. I've loved hearing your story, and I'm hoping that somebody here might have heard something that might have made them think, or maybe they heard God's voice speaking through you. Maybe I should think about being an usher, or join the water boys, or maybe it's just, God's using Dave. Maybe God can use me and where I'm at. And so I thank you for sharing that today.
Well, you're welcome to join us Tuesday mornings at 9 if you want.
Will the water boys let me come?
I think we will. I think we'll make an exception in your case.
Oh,
Usually
okay.
it's just men, but that's okay.
Maybe I can drag my husband over here.
There you go.
That would be great. Well, thank you all for joining us today. I hope you've been blessed. I hope you will continue to watch Spotlight and get to know the people that God is using at Brook Hill Church. Have a great day. God bless you.